Kia ora koutou, Markie here. I've been away for a long time, dealing with a family medical crisis. So I'm only just now kind of regaining some normality, and just beginning to, I guess, really. So that's why I've been away. So I've missed making videos. So this is the first proper one. I did a little video, just part of my Strange Things Found on the Beach series, which was a short. That's all I've been able to do really since then. But now I'm back. Okay, so a little preamble. You can skip ahead if you don't want to listen to this preamble, but just an explanation about this channel. So the primary purpose of this channel is to support people with retroactive jealousy. If you don't know what that is, there are videos, check out the playlist that explain what that is. But we make videos on all sorts of other things, some of which are also related to my profession. So I'm a psychotherapist, so some of the other videos are about different aspects of psychotherapy, and some of them are about aspects of the human condition, or about disorders and conditions and things like that. We also feature neurodivergence quite a bit on this channel. I am neurodivergent myself, which is why the presentation on this is the second part of the preamble. The presentation on this channel and the whole channel itself is slightly different. Okay, so it would be far more efficient for me to have a channel that's purely devoted to retroactive jealousy and not have anything else on the channel. But that doesn't really suit my neurodiverse personality, and also it would mean that I would have to keep kind of coming up with retroactive jealousy videos even when I don't really feel I've got something new to offer in that moment. And what I want to do is just to shoot retroactive jealousy videos, or any other video for that matter, when I've got something really important to say, or when the mojo is there. So that's where this channel is a bit different. Also, the style of presentation of this channel is quite rambling and informal, a bit like a friendly chat. There's lots of diversions and tangents, and some people really like that kind of style of presentation, some people don't. Some people prefer something more slick, more prepared, more ordered. You won't find that here, so find another channel if that's not for you. So I have been saying for a long time, there's no academic research on retroactive jealousy, but actually there is. I've been looking into it, and what I actually wanted to do, I'm doing this upside down and inside out really, is that there's some recent research that's come out, and I've been linked to that by the researcher, and I was about to do a video on that, but they also made reference to some previous research, and because I've just this moment read through the research that they referenced, the earlier research, I'm going to do this first because it's fresher in my mind. So what we're looking at, and on the screen here is online is the actual document, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below. So it's social media's role in romantic partners, retroactive jealousy, social comparison, uncertainty, and information seeking. Okay, so this came out in 2018. And these are the authors here, so credit to them: Jessica R. Frampton and Jessie Fox. Fox and Frampton, or Frampton and Fox. That's kind of quite cool, isn't it, for the alliteration? Both from Ohio, I believe, from America, anyway. So you can look at this, I'll link you to it. If you're not used to reading academic papers, I really struggle with academic papers. I hate the way that they're presented. I find them very difficult. It's usually the language. They're usually presented in... This one is quite readable, actually, but often they're presented in very pompous academic English, which I think is really a means of stopping normal people who aren't in academia from reading them. But this one's quite readable. It's it makes a lot of sense. So if you read a paper and you're not used to reading academic papers, top tip is nobody reads all of an academic paper. They just read the key bits. Okay. I've pretty much read all of it. There were some bits that I skim read because they were kind of repetitious, really. So the bits in the summary and the discussion, really, that I read but only skim read. But I pretty much read through all of it because I knew I was going to be talking about it. But generally speaking, people read the abstract, and they read the bits that people read on a academic paper. So they all follow this particular format, and they're full of all the blue stuff is references. So you can't say if you're presenting something academically, you can't really say anything without backing it up by something that somebody else before has said. Which is the way academia works, and they have their reasons. But I guess, if people like probably like Plato and Socrates had to back up everything that they said based on something that somebody else said, they probably wouldn't have said anything. So it's not academia is not a place for original thought. Academia is a place for I suppose it's a means of establishing truth, I suppose, and it has its merits and it has its demerits, really. So yeah, method. Generally speaking, you don't need to read the method, or you could just really read the first part of the method. So this is how they did the research. So they recruited 36 people, undergraduates. So this is interesting. So they're all young people in America. It goes into detail about the age range and stuff like that. So you don't need to read the method. The analysis is so once the method is how they gather the information. The analysis is how they make sense of it and organise it. Again, you don't need to read that unless you're interested. The results you might want to read. And in this case, it's quite interesting and useful what they've come up with. So results you would read. What else? That's still part of the results. That's still part of the results. Discussion, yeah, you might want to read that. And then read the conclusion. So you could just read the conclusion and the abstract, really, but you don't need to go into the method, all that kind of thing. So what's interesting, and what I'll try and do is pre-digest this for you a little bit, so you don't have to read it if you don't want to, or if you do read it, you've got kind of something to. I find sometimes it's useful to have a summary of something before you read more detail, and then you can kind of something you can hang the detail on, if that makes sense. So right, okay, so the first thing to say, I think this is really interesting, is although retroactive jealousy is in capitals here up in the title, it's only in capitals because it's in the title, and where it's referred to elsewhere it's not in capitals. And the reason it's not in capitals is, or I think the reason it's not in capital, I guess you'd have to ask the writers. Retroactive jealousy is generally considered to be quite a severe disorder, which is a form of obsessive compulsive disorder. So that would be retroactive jealousy with capital letters. Retroactive jealousy in small letters is where people can experience some jealousy of a retroactive nature, but it doesn't necessarily have the intensity of retroactive jealousy in capital letters. So the way they've come about this research, they've not kind of found a bunch of people that identify as having retroactive jealousy. They've just picked a bunch of random students, and they've asked them questions about their relationships, and they've asked them questions about their social media. And they've been quite precise about what they mean by social media, and they've used the term SNS as an abbreviation. So what they're looking at, where does it explain that? So social networking sites, SNSs. So that includes, they do list them somewhere actually, it includes Facebook, I think it includes Instagram, but mainly they're talking about sites where you can join these platforms, and some information about individuals is publicly available to you. You can so if you want to find out about your partner's exes, you've got a good chance of finding them on those platforms. So they haven't included other similar online networks where it's more difficult, where for example everybody is anonymized. So they haven't included Reddit, for example, but they've included Facebook. They talk mainly about Facebook, but they do talk about others as well. So what they're talking about is what these young people think about looking up their partner's exes online. Okay, so very important thing to take into account. These aren't people that identify as having retroactive jealousy. But what they're saying is that some people who have chosen to look up their partner's exes online have experienced feelings of jealousy. And they're calling that retroactive jealousy with a small r and a small j. But it doesn't mean that it's a big deal, really. So one of the things that I haven't really talked about is the intensity or the duration of the jealousy. So this may be something that lasts, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 minutes. It hasn't got the all-consuming quality of what we would call retroactive jealousy. So that's important. But what they've come up with is interesting, I think, and useful. So let's see if I can break it down for you a little bit, just by summarising some of these headings. So these people that they're quoting, they won't have been people that have written papers on retroactive jealousy. They would have written things on, specific little aspects of what we're talking about here. And obviously it's good form in academia to put as many references in as you can. So I'm a bit cynical about academia. So for example, if you talk about cheese, just in passing, you put a reference to cheese in, so so not all of these references would be particularly useful. If you thought, oh, I should follow up all these references, you'd find most of them kind of quite unhelpful, really, and not saying anything particularly groundbreaking. So it's like in an academic paper, you have to back everything up. So it's almost like you can't just assume that if you drop an apple, it will land on the ground. You have to reference gravity. So excuse my cynicism around this. So uncertainty. So what they've talked about here is, so some people haven't felt the need to look up in this study, haven't felt the need to look up their partner's exes on social media. Some have done it. Some of the ones that have done it it's not been a big deal. They've not really thought too much about it. But some of the people who have compared themselves with their exes. Now it's interesting. I did a video on 2 different types of retroactive jealousy. There's comparative and non-comparative. So check that one out. This is talking about, so they look at the profile of the ex, and they think, and they see them, I don't know, in driving a Rolls Royce through Monte Carlo, and they compare themselves with that partner, and they might kind of, if that's the case, they probably kind of come away thinking, well, they're better than, why are they with me? I must be a second choice. I can't be that important because this other partner looks brilliant. But they also look at where the partner doesn't look so good. They gave an example of somebody, I don't want to be sizist, but somebody said that, well, if they looked at the ex-partner and found that they were overweight, then I would feel really good and wouldn't feel any sense of threat. So disparaging exes. So a lot of people have one of the things that they've wanted to do when they've looked up exes is to find some fault with them, even when there is no obvious fault. So it's like the guy with the Rolls Royce in Monte Carlo. They'd say, oh yeah, but look at him, he's got acne, or something like that. What they haven't talked about, which I think is a factor in retroactive jealousy with a capital R and a capital J, is that sometimes if somebody has an ex that doesn't seem to be a threat, that you would judge in the way that we all judge people, even though we kind of know we shouldn't. If we see somebody that's we judge poorly, like the person that's overweight, or somebody that's that's perhaps intellectually not that bright, or lower social status or something like that, that in my experience, my clinical experience, that's not always been something that's made people feel better. Because in retroactive jealousy, people think, well, why did you, if you went out with that loser and you thought they were special, and you tell me that I'm special, that means nothing. Where do you set the bar here? Now, talking about specialness, I'm glad that was featured in here. One of the things they talked about was looking on somebody's social media at their past partners makes it more real. They know they've got past partners, but when they actually see pictures of them and it becomes more real, the person looking sometimes feels like the relationship isn't as valuable, or they're not as valuable, because they're just one of a number of people. So they've talked about people that choose to choose to look more and do more research on social media in an attempt to feel better. And we know with proper retroactive jealousy, the disorder, that always makes things worse. And it also talks about people on here who have chosen not to do that, which in the avoidance, which in proper retroactive jealousy is the only thing to do. Is really important that you do that. So I've talked a little bit about accessibility. So sometimes you grasshopper you can seek, but you may not find. You can't always find people on social media. So discussions, that's where they go into a bit more depth. And so what they're kind of saying is, and there's another thing they quote here which I can't find, which is that there's a correlation between the amount of use of Facebook and the quality of your relationship. Your relationship is more likely to go downhill the more you look at Facebook, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? So this is what it is, okay? It can help us to a certain extent understand retroactive jealousy with capital R and a capital J. But it's probably more of a statement about how social media is affecting everyone. And I think, people compare themselves to their peers, don't they? People look at their old schoolmates on social media and see that, and then feel threatened because they're more successful. The other comment that he makes on here, which I think is good, is that obviously people curate what they put on social media. So they show the good bits and hide the bad bits. So, everybody, arguably everybody can look like a film star on social media, but it's harder to do that in real life. They also talked about issues around looking snooping on social media versus asking your partner about their exes, and why people choose to do one and not the other, and sometimes saying that they feel that if they ask their partner they'll get a very edited version, whereas social media will give them a more accurate version, which of course the previous point I made is that that's not necessarily the case. But obviously with social media you get photos, you get more than just somebody telling you their memories of somebody. So I think the question for me is because I'm interested in retroactive jealousy in the capitals, capital R, capital J. I'm not so interested in this casual, transient experiences of jealousy that people who haven't got the disorder are experiencing, because they could be here today and gone tomorrow. But the question I would ask really off the back of this research is social media likely to be triggering, in the sense of triggering the disorder of retroactive jealousy? Is retroactive jealousy likely to increase because of social media? I think there's a good chance that it is, or that it has, because before social media, exes, were very vague and very non-present, whereas with social media, they can be very current and very, very accessible. So is this creating more people with the disorder of retroactive jealousy? Possibly. I think, probably quite likely. And I think it's probably social media. This is another question really, and I'm sure there's research on this, is how much is social media diminishing people's self-esteem through comparison? And my guess is that would be pretty massive really. And that in itself, even though it's not necessarily related to exes, would be a big factor in retroactive jealousy, because retroactive jealousy is fueled a lot by, I believe, by insecurity, low self-esteem, FOMO, thinking that other people are living better lives, all those things. So have a look. So thank you and credit to Jessica Frampton and Jessie Fox, because although this research is a bit tangential to the retroactive jealousy that I'm interested in, it's still valuable. And these things trigger other things. So whenever anybody does a bit of research, often people read it and they see other areas and other questions that they want to ask, and they take it further. So I will do another video, hopefully before too long, of the more recent research paper that's come out on retroactive jealousy, and that is about retroactive jealousy with a capital R and a capital J, and that is based on interviewing people who identify with having retroactive jealousy. So hopefully it'll be a bit more useful and relevant if you're interested in the disorder. Final thing to say is all of this, it's academic, and it's academic in both senses of the word. Academic meaning, part of academia, part of the establishment of universities and such like, but academic also in the sense that it's highly theoretical and not practical. So you could know all this kind of stuff, you could study all this kind of stuff till the cows came home, you could make a lifetime study of it, and it wouldn't take your RJ away, it'd probably make it worse. So if you have retroactive jealousy and you want to cure it, you want to deal with it, then you have to do stuff. And we've got over 120 videos on some of the stuff that you can do. But take action. The treatment for retroactive jealousy, it requires dedication and daily action. Retroactive jealousy is totally treatable. If you've got it, please don't feel that you're stuck with it and there's nothing you can do about it. You can cure your own retroactive jealousy. Often people need help. It's not something you can always do yourself, but in many cases you can do it yourself if you have the right help and follow the right actions. But please, please, please don't suffer in silence with retroactive jealousy, or study theory and wait for a cure to fall from the sky, because it won't. But it can be cured by the right action if you take the right action and get the right guidance. So I want to leave you with hope around that one. So I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching this, and do have a read of the paper if you wish to, and I will be back soon. Maybe that I do that next video on the other research paper immediately after this one, or it may come a while with other stuff in between, but it will come one way or the other. And I will catch you very soon. Rangimarie.